For years, fans of Buffy the Vampire Slayer had been hearing whispers about a comeback, a new generation of Slayers, a fresh story set in Sunnydale, and maybe even the return of the original Buffy herself. It sounded like the kind of revival that could bring one of television's most legendary supernatural shows back to life. And then, just like that, it was gone. After months of excitement building online, the highly anticipated reboot suddenly collapsed before it ever reached the screen. No dramatic finale, no final trailer, just a quiet announcement that left fans stunned. What made the moment even more surprising was who delivered the news. Instead of a studio statement or a corporate press release, the update came directly from Sarah Michelle Gellar herself. In a heartfelt message, the actress who defined the role of Buffy Summers told fans something they never expected to hear. The reboot wasn't happening. But the real surprise wasn't just the cancellation. It was how close the project actually came to becoming real. Once fans started learning how far things had already progressed behind the scenes, the entire situation became even more shocking. For a long time, the idea of Buffy returning felt almost impossible. After the original show ended in 2003, many assumed the story had reached its natural conclusion. The character had already faced countless apocalypses, defeated legendary villains, and reshaped the rules of the Slayer legacy. The ending felt final. Buffy had done what she was meant to do. But behind the scenes, a new idea had been quietly developing. The planned reboot, reportedly titled Buffy, New Sunnydale, was designed to shift the focus to a brand new Slayer. Instead of retelling the same story, the series would introduce a fresh hero while bringing Buffy back in a completely different role. Not as the center of the action this time, but as a mentor guiding a new generation. It was a concept that immediately sparked curiosity among longtime fans. Seeing Buffy pass on her experience and wisdom could open the door to entirely new stories while still honoring the original series. It would be a continuation rather than a replacement. And what made the idea even more surprising was the fact that Sarah Michelle Gellar had spent years saying she wasn't interested in returning to the role. For the longest time, she believed the story had already been told. She had moved on to other projects, and fans had accepted that Buffy's chapter was closed. So when rumors of a comeback started circulating again, many assumed it would happen without her involvement. But then something unexpected happened. The turning point reportedly came when Oscar-winning filmmaker Chloe Zhao approached the project. Zhao was known for her powerful storytelling style and her deep love for the original series. According to interviews, she personally reached out to Gellar with a vision for how Buffy could return in a meaningful way. That conversation changed everything. Suddenly, the reboot wasn't just another nostalgia project. It started to feel like something thoughtful and carefully planned. Fans began to believe this might actually be the right way to bring the universe back. And once the rest of the creative team was revealed, excitement exploded even further. Chloe Zhao wasn't just involved as a director, she was also stepping in as an executive producer, helping shape the entire direction of the project. Her presence alone gave the reboot a level of prestige that most television revivals never receive. Then came the announcement that writers Nora Zuckerman and Lila Zuckerman would be leading the show as writers and showrunners. Their involvement suggested that the story would have a clear vision and strong narrative structure. But one of the most surprising names attached to the reboot was legendary entertainer Dolly Parton. Many fans were shocked to learn that Parton had actually been involved with the original Buffy series decades earlier through her production company. Her quiet role in helping produce the original show had become a bit of behind-the-scenes trivia for longtime fans. Now she was reportedly returning to help produce the revival as well. The project also had financial backing from Hulu, one of the biggest streaming platforms currently producing original television content. With a major streamer involved, an Oscar-winning filmmaker leading the vision, experienced showrunners writing the story, and the original Buffy herself returning to guide a new generation of Slayers, it seemed like the reboot had every ingredient needed to succeed. In fact, reports suggested the show had already moved into early development stages. Photos even surfaced online showing Sarah Michelle Gellar filming scenes in Los Angeles wearing a striking red outfit. For fans watching from the outside, this felt like confirmation that the reboot was really happening. It wasn't just an idea anymore. It was becoming real. Everything looked like it was moving forward smoothly, until suddenly, it wasn't. The news arrived quietly, but spread across the internet almost instantly. Sarah Michelle Gellar posted a video message directly addressing fans. Her tone was sincere, emotional, and clearly disappointed. It quickly became obvious that this wasn't the update fans had been hoping for. She explained that Hulu had made the decision not to move forward with the reboot. The project that had sparked so much excitement was officially canceled before production could truly begin. Gellar said she wanted fans to hear the news directly from her, rather than discovering it through headlines or rumors. It was her way of respecting the community that had supported Buffy for decades. She also took a moment to thank Chloe Zhao for the passion and dedication she had brought to the project. According to Gellar, working with Zhao had reminded her how much she still loved the character of Buffy and how important the series remained to so many people. Even though the reboot wasn't happening, the experience had brought her back into that world in a meaningful way. Before ending her message, Gellar delivered a line that longtime fans immediately recognized. She referenced one of Buffy's most famous quotes from the original series, telling viewers that if the apocalypse actually comes, they could still beep her. It was a small moment of humor and nostalgia that perfectly captured the spirit of the character. However, the Buffy franchise has also faced complicated discussions in recent years. Several former cast members from the original show have spoken publicly about difficult experiences during production. In particular, accusations surfaced involving the show's creator, Joss Whedon. Some actors described moments when the working environment on set had been challenging. Others shared stories about tensions behind the scenes. These conversations sparked widespread debate across the entertainment industry and led many fans to re-examine the legacy of the series. While the reboot itself was not directly connected to those past situations, the history surrounding the franchise has continued to follow it. Online discussions often speculate that studios might approach a revival cautiously because of the controversies associated with the original production. There has never been official confirmation that these issues played a role in Hulu's decision, but the conversation surrounding them has definitely influenced how fans view the future of the franchise. And just as the reboot seemed like it might finally open a new chapter for the Buffy universe, the community faced another heartbreaking moment. In 2025, fans were stunned by tragic news involving one of the show's beloved cast members. Actress Michelle Trachtenberg, who played Buffy's younger sister Dawn in the later seasons of the series, passed away at the age of 39. Her character had been introduced during one of the show's most memorable story arcs and quickly became an important part of the Buffy family. For many fans, Trachtenberg's performance brought emotional depth to the show's later seasons. Her character represented the innocence and vulnerability that Buffy was constantly trying to protect. After news of her passing spread, viewers around the world returned to the original episodes to celebrate her work and remember the impact she had on the series. The timing made the reboot announcement feel even more meaningful for some fans. It seemed like the revival might offer a chance to reconnect with the Buffy universe while honoring the actors who helped bring it to life. Now that the reboot has been canceled, that hope has once again become uncertain. Still, in the world of television and streaming entertainment, things can change quickly. Projects that appear canceled sometimes return years later in a completely different form. Networks change strategies, studios revisit old ideas, and beloved franchises occasionally find new life when audiences least expect it. Even Sarah Michelle Gellar's message hinted that the door might not be permanently closed. While she confirmed that the current reboot was not moving forward, she also made it clear that her connection to the character of Buffy hasn't disappeared. If anything, working on the project reminded her just how important the series still is to fans all around the world. And in an era where classic shows are constantly being revived, rebooted, or reimagined, it's not impossible that Buffy could return someday. It might happen on a different platform, with a new creative team, or with an entirely different concept. For now, the planned revival may be gone, but the legacy of Buffy Summers continues to live on in every fan who still remembers the battles she fought, the friendships she built, and the world she helped protect. Because in the Buffy universe, one truth has always remained the same. Even when it seems like the fight is over, another Slayer is always waiting to rise. A rapturous laugh, a personality with no off switch, vitality and goodwill, all at once, always. That's not a performance. That's a person. And she leaves behind the most important thing she ever created. Not a role, not a performance, not a credit on a resume. Her daughter, Madeline Rose. We don't know much about Madeline. Carrie kept that part of her life private too, with the instinct of a mother who understood that a child deserves a childhood that belongs entirely to her and not to her parents' public persona. What we know is that Madeline Rose was loved, deeply, completely, with everything her mother had to give, and that she carries forward something of her mother's warmth and fire and grace, even if the world will only ever see glimpses of it. 51 is too young. It is always too young. And there is grief in that. in the roles Carrie didn't get to play, the stories she didn't get to tell, the years she didn't get to have. But there is also this. She lived a life that mattered. She made things that lasted. She touched people in ways they are still trying to find words for. And she did it with a kindness that, apparently, never had an off switch. That's a legacy. That's a life. Here's the thing about the entertainment industry that gets lost sometimes in all the noise about stars and franchises and box office numbers and streaming metrics. It runs on people like Carrie and Fleming. Not the headliners, not the names above the title, the people in the middle of the cast list, the recurring guest stars, the actors who show up for 3 episodes or 5 or 10 and do something so right, so true, so quietly extraordinary that the whole story holds together in a way it wouldn't without them. Carrie was one of those people. For nearly 3 decades, she showed up on sets across Canadian television, and occasionally beyond. And she did what great actors do. She made it real, she made you care, she made the person sitting across from her on camera look better, because that's what generosity in performance actually looks like. She gave. Her fans, particularly the Supernatural fans who had loved Karen Singer with a ferocity that still surprises people who weren't part of that community, understood this instinctively. They didn't need to read a critical essay about her craft or a retrospective piece about her legacy. They just felt it. They felt it the first time they watched her, and they still felt it years later. And when the news of her passing spread across social media on a gray February day, they felt it one more time in a different and deeper and more final way. She was 51. She was a daughter of Digby, Nova Scotia, who trained on stages in Victoria and built a career on the genre television sets of Vancouver. She was Karen Singer, Candy Baker, and a dozen other characters whose names her fans had memorized. She was a theater actress who did Shakespeare and Frayne and Robert Harling with the same commitment she brought to horror and sci-fi. She was a mother to Madeline Rose. She was, above all, kind. The genre world, which has always had a complicated relationship with its own importance, forever fighting to be taken seriously while also knowing, deep down, that the stories it tells matter enormously to the people who love them, lost something real when it lost her. Not just a performer, but a particular quality of presence, a warmth that made dark stories feel bearable, a humanity that made supernatural events feel true. Some people, when they leave a gap, a visible, specific, undeniable gap, the kind where you look at a scene and think, someone should be standing there, someone is missing from this. Carrie Ann Fleming leaves that kind of gap. And the best thing her fans can do, the best tribute they can offer, is to go back, to pull up those old Supernatural episodes and watch what she does in her scenes with Jim Beaver, to revisit iZombie and catch her moments as Candy Baker, to remember that the person doing those things was a real human being who got up every morning and chose to give something of herself to anyone who was watching. She gave it. It's still there. It always will be. Rest well, Carrie. You earned it.